I'm Mel Stewart, and this is the SwimSwam podcast. Joining me today is the chief executive of FINA. Today we have Brent Nowicki. We are mere days ahead of the FINA World Championships, the Aquatics Festival, which includes competition in the pool, open water, diving, and high diving. SwimSwam's going to be there, and in the show notes, we're going to share with you the how, when, where, what to do, and how to watch this. Coleman Hodges is going to be on deck, our head of production, to file reports daily. Brent, the last time we talked, it was at U.S. Olympic trials, and you had been on the job about 10 seconds. How much of your time has been taken up planning for this event since June?
Now I've been on the job 20 seconds, but every bit of it. Look, I mean, I think when we last spoke, we launched right into Tokyo, and then it was Swim World Cup and a number of other events, and then pretty much all hands on deck for the last few months with this event. Yeah,
it's I'd like to talk a little about the World Cup, because the World Cup was successful, and I was a little bit surprised after the long break from the pandemic. But let's stay on FINA World Championships. FINA World Championships. We have this unique situation in Abu Dhabi with all these events together, and it feels like sport has become this place where you have to create the stage of spectacle, and that matters. And is that the thinking behind having this big event?
Look, I mean, I think it's probably easy to say yes, because I think you're right. I mean, sport has become a spectacle. I mean, we have to compete every single day with additional sports and then alternative sports. And so we're always trying to capture the attention of the youth to swim instead of play a video game. So how do you do that? Unfortunately, it's not enticing them to the water. It's compete with them from a spectacle perspective. So I think, yeah, I mean, you have to keep that spectacular to keep interest and always trying to do things different. But I don't think this event was really built around creating a spectacle. I think it just became a spectacle out of an idea that we were running, that athletes had a really difficult year or 16 months. And, we had a lot of cancellations, not only in our swimming events, but our diving events, our open water events. Calendars were sort of gone. And I thought we just felt like, hey, it's a new administration. We want to be athlete first. We felt a sense of compulsion to do something. And we had an organizing committee that had the ability to do and support it. So when we proposed it to them and they agreed, we thought, wow, let's seize on this. And, it turned in from, hey, can we do open water? Can we do an open water relay? Can we do diving? Wait, can we do high diving? And now we have a spectacular. So that's kind of the origins of the whole thing.
Out of curiosity, I just thought of this now, but it sounds to me like you have the potential, when you're managing all these different sports, when you bundle everything together, this could be, you could save money. Is that, or is it the opposite? Is this money saver, or is this a bigger expense?
You know what, Mel? Great question. And I think, in all honesty, I can't give you the answer right now. I think we'll run the numbers after the event and we'll see where things shake out. But I think in principle, our plan is to start combining events. And I think there's two reasons for that. One, actually maybe three. One, I think the calendar is just massively congested. When I walked in this job, I just can't understand how we're doing an event a week. I mean, it's incredible to think that, we're doing so many events. And with that, the second part is that we just have, we're spread too thin. We're sending people here, we're sending people there. All of that adds costs. And it takes away from other things as well. So it's a huge time suck to have 75 events. And so the question becomes, well, can you start to combine events? And then looking at cost savings and saying, well, you take somebody like Omega, for example. Well, Omega is going to send a team to diving in Kazan this month. But next month, they're going to send a team to Kazan for artistic swimming. So can we just send Omega there once over 4 days and do everything at once and save money? The answer is yes. You probably can save about 25%. But there are other costs associated with it. So we'll factor in all those issues and those considerations and run the numbers at the end and see what we can do. But I can say that already looking into 2022, we're still trying to blend and combine some events where we can and test this out a little bit more.
It's when I run the business side of SwimSwam. I look at things from the commercial division, and it seems as though spectacle is the way to go. It also seems like television rights. It's easy to pull this all together, bundle it, and sell it. And it's So I'm just wondering, is it this is the first one? You have to develop events like this. Do you see a future where television rights are going to start climbing up?
For me, the reason why I like sitting down and watching the Olympics is because I can just sit there and watch nonstop content without being interrupted, because I can go from the finals of this to the finals of that, to this race, to that race. And it's this constant engagement where I don't get sidetracked with a commercial. I don't have the ability or need to change the channel. If we can create something like that, where I can take you to the high dive, and now Brent is diving, and Mel's going to be swimming. Let's bring you to Mel. And then I can switch broadcast to inside, and I can create this sort of this balance of gauging, of keeping you on your seat. I think it could very well help. Is it the answer? I don't know, but it's worth a try, right? So let's see what we can do and see if maybe we can get an action-packed 2 hours of swimming and diving, and maybe it helps solve the problem.
How much have you been on the road since June? Have you been at the desk? Are you lording over aquatic sports from your hub at your HQ, or have you been on the road?
I think it's been a combination of both. I mean, it's been a lot of both. I mean, I think we went on quite a big traveling tour when we started, trying to get to all the disciplines, meeting all the athletes, and sort of getting our names and faces around, and sort of building a comfort level and sort of reestablishing some trust in the community. At the same time, there's a lot of work that needs to get done here. And so I've been here late nights, early mornings, trying to keep that balance. But look, with 75 events on the calendar, it's a lot of moving. It's a lot of moving around. So
it's I find that it's challenging to get work done when you're out, when you're on the road. I feel like your brain oftentimes you don't always come up with your most creative ideas, although you get inspired when you're on the road and you have that sense of connection with your base.
Mm-hmm.
It's which you've been there for a hot minute, and I'm wondering how much of FINA and the management of aquatic sports is really about the elite stage and creating events like this and managing the properties that FINA owns, and how much of it is the development of the sport, or is that something that's left to the NGBs?
Not really on our watch. I think your question is a valid one, and I don't have any qualms about sort of showing my cards on this. I mean, it's difficult because I have a lot of ideas. The team has ideas, but we rarely get time to strategize and think about them. And I wasn't given much of a runway to start this job. It wasn't like I had a 3-year backed up World Cup calendar that I could rely on and know that it was going to be runoff, and I could start to think, okay, let's take this year to really digest and look at the program and how can we improve it. And so, I mean, I don't have that luxury of bringing in the management team or my sports guys and girls and saying, hey, let's have a cup of coffee and roundtable this for a couple hours and start to put pen to paper about new concepts. I just haven't had that time. And I missed that time. I really think I need that time, to be honest. And it's just not there. It doesn't exist. And to be honest, Mel, I don't know when it will exist, because I'm coming off of this World Championships, getting ready for the long course World Championships, launching into another Swim World Cup. And then, oh, by the way, we have another World Championships at Kazan at the end of the year. So, I mean, there's just really little time to do the strategy sessions that we need. So, yeah, I mean, it's not an easy road ahead. I can't lie and say I have all the answers. I mean, we're thinking about them, we're trying to, but I need time.
How big's the staff there? Just out of curiosity, We're talking to you from the United States. SwimSwam reports regional news in 6 languages, and we have and nearly half of our audience is international. But we do see things oftentimes, even though we have editors from all over the world. I see things through the U.S. lens. So USA Swimming, waffles between 85 and 95 employees. How big is the staff at FINA?
Probably somewhere a lean 40 right now, 45.
Really?
Yeah. But we're hiring. We're hiring. I guess I would just encourage your listeners to check in with the FINA website, because we do have regular postings. We've got a lot more coming up. So we're going to be hiring and backfilling a lot of sport positions, a lot of administration positions. So we are in real need of good talent and people who are eager about aquatic sport to come join us. And being as that we're a global company, we're looking for people everywhere in the world. So I guess passion is the first most important thing you have to have. Energy is probably the second, and then everything else probably comes third. So it's a lean machine, but we have to. I'd like to be able to get up to something probably like 65 employees. If I could get there, and be probably pretty happy. I think we need it, but one day at a time.
Before I continue to bore everybody with management questions and things like that, let's come back to the World Championships. Just out of curiosity, sure. Is there any? Are you there on the ground, or when will you arrive?
So I leave Saturday. Our team started pulling out today. So we started sending over our registration groups, our accommodations teams this morning, and we'll start to roll out on a periodic basis until next week. And I'll arrive on Saturday and get started right away. We've got a series of meetings that we'll meet with our technical officials. We've got a lot of reforms that have come out, which I'm sure you're aware of. We'll start to have a second meeting with our reforms group, start to implement some of those changes. One of the changes has been a call for our marketing program. So we'll be doing some high-level marketing meetings with potential candidates to take over our marketing program. So a lot of stuff going on before the event even starts. Is
there anything that you're looking forward to? Now that you've gotten your sleeves rolled up and you've gotten wet, is there anything you're looking forward to at the World Championships?
Besides the 22nd of my flight home when I'll sleep?
Yes, besides that.
I'm just kidding. I'm looking forward to the whole thing. I have to tell you, I've been getting feedback. I've done a lot of site visits, and I've gotten feedback now with some pictures of the pool being built and the tower being built, and it's awesome. It just really, it energizes you, and it's that sort of adrenaline kick that you need at the end of a big match. And so for me, I just want to see it all kind of come together. I just want to sort of sit back and look at it, because the way it's situated is, you got a viewing stand from any one of the locations to see everything else is going on. I just want to take a moment of pause and just take it all in, because again, like the way it came together was, basically in a late night think tank in Tokyo, where we said, hey, could this work? Should this work? And then next thing you know, 3 months ago, we're planning this mini World Championships. it literally came together in 3 months. It's shocking. But I just wanted that moment of pause to just take it all in and maybe hopefully smile or cry.
I love the concept. I like trying big things, and I love failure, but I hope to God this isn't a failure. But I do like it when organizations do things, try things, and fail. But it's my hope that this is successful. Is this something that you would roll out for the long course the summer events?
Well, of course, the long course will feature. It's going to feature the high dive. It's going to feature open water. It's going to feature all of our disciplines. That's the nature of our World Championships. So you'll see more there. You'll see artistic there. You'll see water polo there. This is kind of a hybrid mini long course World Championships for us. So it's maybe it's a prelude for what you'll see there.
Let me come back to World Cups, because we haven't had a World Cup in a long time, and I think I sent you a text message and it's like, hey, the metrics on our side are up. I was surprised. I didn't expect it, and it's depending on the particular day, it was up 15 to 20%. Some days it would swing higher, and is that something that surprises you?
Yeah, it did a little bit. I think it surprised us all, because of course, you're coming off of Tokyo, You've got a calendar with ISL that's full. You've got athletes committed to that. You've got, World Cup. You've got a World Championships, and then you've got COVID, and you've got quarantine. And not only do you have quarantine in your home country, but you've got quarantine possibly in every country you're going to, and you've got COVID testing. It's not easy. It's not easy at all. And I can't tell you how grateful I was that the level of swimming and competing that took place, and then just the competition and commitment out of these athletes, because you could see it. I mean, you could see it in so many of them. They were just exhausted. You know what I'm talking about. And it's just to dig in that deep and go as hard as you did for that. I mean, I can only commend them, and I'm grateful for them, because really without them, we don't have a World Cup. And, our numbers were good. Our attendance was fairly strong. Competition was fairly strong. We had a world record, as you know, a lot of good races, and, a lot of good new surprises, right? So these are the times when young swimmers step up, and we saw that with Matt. So, you kind of can't ask for a better story, really. I mean, you get some great veterans, you get some great new rookies, and then you get a great World Cup.
Well, the interesting thing was that we're always tracking just it's SwimSwam. It's very endemic sport. These are the tried and true folks. They're going to show up on the slowest day of the year. So we're always tracking sort of the mind of the sport and what they're engaging in. And I anticipated coming out of the Olympics that with ISL starting immediately, that their traffic would be up, and I was surprised that it was flat. And they recovered as they moved through their season, but then they would take a break, and then it would come flat again. And I was wondering coming into World Cup if it was like, I was wondering if the bump was coming because people were getting so used to this constant feed of content of swim, and okay, this is a different brand, but it's like that occurred to me. I don't know. Have you guys looked at that data at all?
Honestly, Mel, I haven't. I mean, I don't. For me, it's 100% our events. It's so many. Again, I realize your viewers it's principally swimming, but for me, the moment I give too much time to other events, I get criticized from the other disciplines. So I have to balance it. But no, I mean, I think we are just focused on supporting our organizing committee, supporting our athletes, making sure that we can get the best event forward, and learning from it. I mentioned earlier, we didn't really have a runway. So now, I'm going to use 2022 to really look at our World Cup and say, okay, what's good, what's not. We need to change it, probably, maybe. How do we change it? So my focus is purely on our events and making them the best events that we can have, and making a system or a calendar that works for athletes, because that's one of the big complaints that we've heard from athletes, is that the calendar is too thick, it's too disjointed. So we're trying to create a system that works for them. And that's my focus.
Every single interview that we've done with elites, there's always, as we don't go live, we record. So there's always, some 5 to 10 minutes of chit chat, and everyone without fail will give you, they're exhausted, they're tired of the grind, they're teetering on depression, they've had too much with pandemic, with the delayed Olympics into our competitive regular seasons. So that's it all checks out, and the fact that you're reading the room and saying, hey, how do we make this schedule work for you? That checks out. So it sounds like you've gotten a lot of feedback when you were on deck at World Cup. Yeah,
exactly. I mean, it doesn't work if people aren't happy. The model historically maybe didn't work because people just didn't like it. We have to serve our customers. It's like anything else. I mean, if you own a business and you've got customers, and if they're not happy, they're not going to come back. It's simple. It's simple business practice. It's not rocket science. And so I think we're here to listen, and we're here to figure out, how do we fill the gap, the 4-year gap? How do we make it an interesting spectacle, to take your word, for our broadcasters? How do we, take a child away from his video games and put him or her in the pool? I mean, that's our business. That's our business. We have to be aware of that and be thinking about that all the time. Sure, I'm exhausted. Sure, I mean, I'm stressed out, of course. But I mean, I have a commitment. I've made a commitment to this organization and to the people we represent, and that's it. And when the time comes for me to move on, then I'll rest then. But right now, it's trying to do our best to get it right, and hopefully we do.
FINA announced relatively recently that you guys would recognize the ISL times for qualification. That sounds like a spirit of cooperation. Is that, am I reading that wrong?
Well, I mean, I think it's what it is. I mean, it's funny because, to qualify an event, just as it's a one-page document on our website. You fill it out and it's simple. We just make sure that all the boxes are ticked, and we want to make sure that your recognized Mel, your world record Mel gets recognized and all at the same time that it doesn't get beat, right? It's a protection for everybody, and we just want to make sure that the events are properly certified. And in order to do that, you have to just take a couple steps to make sure that happens. But I think there was a lot of sort of mud thrown at FINA as if we were the bad guys, and we tried to say, look, the rule applies whether it's a national event or any event. So maybe it was a show of good faith. Maybe it was just a way to say, guys, we're not here to hurt you. We want to help you. And here's what we'll do to show it. And we know that, we had swimmers coming to the World Cup that had qualified through that event, but it wasn't really a certified event, or a sanctioned event. So we just made the decision that in the best interest of the athletes who we didn't want to hurt, we would let it through exceptionally. And then that's what we did.
It sounds like that's a default. You're looking out for the athletes. You're like, what's in the best interest of the athletes? Is that what's driving these decisions?
Yeah. And that's all it was. I mean, we could have punished them, but what would it? It's not their fault. I mean, Mel, you know as well as anyone. Did you check the paperwork of the organizing committee before you jumped in the pool? No. You did. You just came there to do your job. And if you came there to do your job, you should reap the rewards of your work. And and unfortunately, there was maybe some oversight, and an athlete was punished, and it shouldn't be. And from a technical perspective, we felt comfortable where we were with the process, and decided that it should be, the athlete shouldn't be punished. So
the Alliance is an organization that is it's been formed to represent athletes, protect their rights, and ideally to help improve their economic future. It's headed by Matt Biondi. Matt Biondi was I was on national team for USA Swimming for 10 years, and he was my captain 8 of those years. Matt was very vocal and instrumental in we couldn't earn money back then, and he's the person that's where history broke, and suddenly the USOC, now the USOPC, allowed it. So Matt's heading this association, and this has kind of been building for years, and the thought was that they were going to bring the heat to FINA, and it was going to be this tough negotiation with FINA. But we know from our reporting that behind the scenes, it was really the first thing they did was they were holding ISL's feet to the fire on payments, slow payments that hadn't happened. And our understanding is that everybody's been made whole now, although we can't confirm that. So that seems like that's a unique place where we're at in history. Has Matt Biondi engaged FINA? Has the Alliance engaged FINA?
Yeah, and I think for some time now. I think wasn't probably a month on the job that we had our first call with Matt, the president, and I. So we sort of had an open chat about things, and Matt obviously expressed the interest of the Alliance and the swimmers, and I think we were opening to having that discussion. We've had some subsequent discussions with him as well, and in fact invited him out to Abu Dhabi, so he'll be there for a few days, and we'll have a sit down and kind of get it caught up a little bit on what's going on, what's transpiring, and see. I think the president's been very clear about everyone being welcome. We don't have to always get along about things, and we don't have to always have the same opinions, and that's natural and that's healthy. But I think it's right for us to sit down and hear them out, and hopefully we can cure some things that they're concerned about, and hopefully we have some things to bring that perhaps they weren't thinking about. So yeah, I mean, it's like everything else, communication's key. So let's hear what they have to say. And yeah, I
took my regular walk this morning, then I'm taking my hot shower, and I'm trying to go into that default network and sort of display what does Mel care about? What does he want? And it occurred to me, because I feel childlike when I start thinking about Biondi, because he was a mentor type.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of tension back then during our elite careers. But I'm aware of what's going on in the background. I'm bringing story to this interview. I'm aware that Matt wants to be a collaborator. And it didn't occur to me until I was in the shower this morning, where it's like, correct me if I'm wrong. I think that FINA gets 30 to 35 million from the IOC. Is that after each Olympics, part of the revenue share? And it occurred to me that, is that really enough? Should we be getting more? Is this a situation where the Alliance and FINA work together and make a case to get a bigger piece of the television rights pie?
Well, look, I mean, I think if you're trying to pin me into a relationship with the Alliance, I think you have to understand that, you know, there's, for every one Alliance, there's 10 other groups that have interest in mine, and everybody has a different interest. You know, some interests are swimmers, some interests are divers, some interests are open water swimmers, some interests are this group or that group. So, you know, I think we're always open to hear suggestions and engage in that conversation. But it would be very difficult for any organization to side with one particular group over the interests of another particular group. You know, as for your question about should we be getting more? Well, I mean, yeah, sure, why not? I mean, I think, you know, we're very fortunate. Look, I mean, let's be realistic. I mean, that money is it's a huge advantage for us, and it's a lot of money that we're able to spread through a lot of our programming. And we started the conversation, and you asked me a question. I apologize, I didn't probably directly answer. It was about how much of this is about elite swimming and how much of it's about development, and a lot of it's about development. In fact, you know, it's kind of like an iceberg, right? Elite's what you hear and see in the top of the water, but really what's going on is the iceberg below the water, and that's development. I mean, that's, you know, that's a lot of what we're doing is supporting and trying to bring up all swimmers across the world, divers across the world, open water swimmers, and growing sports and growing in areas that, you know, otherwise we haven't seen development in. And that money the IOC comes from really helps us in that regard. I mean, you know, we don't have the luxury of having, you know, huge sponsorship and huge broadcasts like Formula One or the NFL or the NBA. You know, we rely on this money, and we spend it as intelligently as we possibly can, to protect not only the integrity of the institution, but the integrity of our sports. And, you know, we're committed to making sure that every dollar that we get goes to that type of programming.
I'm trying to unpack a few things, and I see things through the athlete's lens, and I'm thinking to myself, the Alliance needs to have artistic swimming, water polo, and diving. But I maybe I shouldn't have put that out into the ether. We'll see what happens. I do like I do like your grin and your smile saying, yeah, maybe we should get more of the pie. As a chief executive, is you know, is that something where you're making that case? Is that I have no idea how complicated it is to sit down and make a case. It's like, hey, this is a big pie. We're a big part of the telecast. We're bringing the eyeballs. I'd like to be a fly on the wall in those back rooms.
Yeah, I don't think it's as complicated as you think it might be. You know, the structure of payouts for Olympic money, it's public money. It's public, and so it's based on your category of IF, and the category of IF is dependent on those types of things. So it's you get slated based on a number of criteria, but including things like broadcast, the eyeballs, as you said, and then once you get classified, that's the revenue share. That's the piece of the pie you get. So there's not a lot of backroom negotiation as to, you know, hey, we did X million more than this federation, and we want a little bit more of the pie than them. I mean, you know, it's not really how it goes down. So, you know, again, we're happy with what we get. We obviously support and recognize the importance of the Olympic movement and the way in which it supports not only our federation but all federations. And we're fortunate, and people can criticize it for what they want, but at the end of the day, we're extremely fortunate to be a part of that, and we're extremely fortunate to be able to, you know, be at the top of those IFs in virtually all the metrics that they register, so that we can continue to keep this thing going and hopefully, you know, distribute that pie as much as we can back down to the athletes.
We live in a world where we have extremely powerful nations with their own unique personalities and governments. China, Russia, and it's as the chief executive of an IF, you've got to work with everyone, and you have to represent the world. That sounds like a unique challenge, and at times, looking through from the lens of the United States, it feels like FINA's leaned to China and to Russia, and because of events and where they're hosted, and is it can you give any insight into what the mission of FINA is when it comes to representing the world and the uniqueness of that challenge?
Yeah, I mean, look, it's the fun part of the job, to be honest. I mean, cultural differences is an interesting thing. I mean, somebody who grew up in Buffalo, New York, in a predominantly Polish family, didn't exactly, his eyes weren't exactly open to cultural diversity. Yeah, sure, Polish American family living in Buffalo, but it wasn't like I was doing my summers in Paris and jaunting off to Spain for tortillas and paella. I mean, it was a pretty American life, and so you don't really appreciate culture beyond fast food restaurants in a mall. I mean, it's the reality of my childhood, and so when you start to actually realize that Spain isn't paella and tortillas, and it's actually a great, interesting, beautiful, historic culture, and it's not springtime in Paris like you see in a movie, but a whole other being with great passion and great energy and great culture. You start to realize that the world is a lot bigger than you thought when you're growing up in Buffalo, New York. And so, but with all that understanding comes complexities, and complexities can get drawn in many different directions. It can get drawn politically, it can get drawn religiously. And so, being a global body, you have to recognize, appreciate, and respect those balances. And you have to find a way to navigate through each and every one of them equally. And it's not always easy, Mel. It's quite difficult, but you find a way to do it, because at the end of the day, I make a very strong point of taking politics out of sport. It's just not my business. It's just not what I want to do. And so, at the common denominator on all of these cultures and religions in politics is the athlete. And if you can focus on the common denominator of the athlete, all this can kind of go away, because this is sort of the focal point by which you can drive your mission. And so it's difficult, yeah, but it does fade into the periphery when you focus on the events, the athletes, the mission that you've been tasked with. Sorry.
I appreciate that. And I appreciate your the background and the color, but so now I want to switch gears and say that I'm very, very angry with NGBs. I'm very, very angry with IFs. I'm very, very angry with FINA, and here's why. I feel like with this huge platform and the ability to win minds and move everyone as one massive family, that it comes down to messaging. And it feels like the best messaging in sport often comes from big commercial players. Our companies selling swimsuits or building pools, or they're always thinking about a message and they're selling a message. And I haven't really felt that from FINA. And I know that there's a lot to manage. And I know but I'm wondering, is that something that's in the back of your head? What is the message? What's FINA's message for the next generation? What it's.
It's a timely question, Mel, and I'll tell you why. Because last week we had our company sort of holiday get together, right? And in the beginning part of that, we did a team building exercise, and we sort of came together on some thoughts about what FINA meant to us individually. What do we each individually want on a FINA? What do I want to do as a CEO? What do I want? What's my mission statement for this company? What do I stand for? What do we stand for? What do I think? But I made it very clear to them that it's not what I think. It's not what I want. It's what we all want to think and what we all feel. And so I've put them to task to do just that, to come back to me over the course of the next few weeks, to give me their thoughts, just a few bullet points, a few points about what they think what we stand for. What do we want to achieve? And so when I get those bullet points back, we'll sit down again and we'll collectively put forth that statement that you're looking for. We'll see what we can do, and then we can be held to it. We can see if we're accountable for what we say we want to be, and hopefully we can. And if we can't, perhaps we have to adjust, and that's fine too. But But again, the timeliness of your question is good, and I hope that we can. I hope that we can stand by what we believe we think we are.
I think organizations, big organizations, make the mistake of trying to win a gold medal with their statement and their message and who we are, and then it ends up being watered down.
Mm-hmm.
It's my hope that you have 4 or 5 messages and you try them all out, and you test them out, because I'm egotistical. I think I know everything, and here's my message, and this is the way the world should be. It falls on deaf ears. It falls flat. And then it's, something that you think offhanded that you just didn't pay attention to, that really lands well. So it's my hope that you try a few messages, and I'm looking forward to seeing what those what develops.
Under promise and over deliver. How about that? No.
Exactly. Yes. No. Agreed. At the end of the day, it comes down to registration for me. It comes down to participation. I want more people in the sport. I believe that aquatic sports makes life better. You do it, you participate in it, it changes you for the rest of your life. And I feel everybody probably feels that way about their sport, but it's on us to tell that story. I feel like the roof is on fire in the United States with registration. Since you're old enough to remember Mark Spitz, USA Swimming has grown at a nice organic rate, and we've had big stars. The pandemic sort of shook things up. We're dealing with esports, we're dealing with action sports, we're dealing with a changing culture, but we are still a sport where 1% is Black and 6% is mixed race, and that does not reflect what our country looks like. Mm-hmm. It feels like a very unique challenge for aquatic sports. I'd be curious as to, is FINA, do your numbers look the same way? Do we have participation from developing nations? Do we have participation from people of color?
Yeah, it's like the iceberg that we talked about. I mean, people just don't see it, but we do. And you know what, Mel? It's shame on us, because we just don't publicize it enough. We don't advertise the communities that we serve in the development projects that we work on target those very areas. And if you look at, and one day when we're together, remind me and I'll bring it around with me, but we have a book on our statistics for our development programming in the nations and the demographics of the people that we serve. And it is predominantly from areas that, you don't read about because they don't medal. But it's our goal to get them on the podium. It's our goal to get them in the finals, and we've been able to do it slowly. But it's an area that's of large focus for us. I mean, this again, it's the iceberg below the water here. We pour a lot of money into development. We've got great development centers. We've got great partners. We're opening a center. It's under construction right now. I think the completion date's probably 2022 and perhaps. In South Africa, we've got our longstanding partner in Kazan, which has been a great resource for us of development. We've got our Thailand center. So we've got a growing network of development centers that are aimed strictly at this. It's the underserved areas, athletes that have a chance, that just need to be served, to give them that opportunity to get them on that podium, and it's entirely our goal. And when you talk to the coaches and you talk to the administrators at these centers, I mean, they just get you so amped up, they get you so motivated, and it's really a great opportunity for us. And look, I would encourage you, if you're interested in that area, to let me know and find a way to get you involved in something, with these centers. I mean, to talk to the kids, to do a podcast, to interview them about their experiences, because these are kids who are on the cusp. They're kids that are just almost at B standards. They're almost going to make the World Championships. They're almost going to make the Olympics, and their entire hopes and dreams are basically in the hands of us to help make that happen. So, we're fighting for them, and we're trying to give them every opportunity to get over that hurdle. And so, yeah, it's a market we absolutely are committed to serve.
I'd like to know more about it, because it's we made a choice to start covering swim in India, biggest democracy on earth. Mm. And people were like, why are you doing this? This is, what they didn't understand it. and it's a completely different culture. When we first started, they had no interest in race results. It was all education. Everything was education.
Mm-hmm.
But over the years, it has become increasingly about race results and how fast is this particular swimmer swimming. And so I feel like it's a success story. Does FINA have a foundation?
Well, before we transition, Mal, I think one thing to go back on this, it's important because again, we're always drawn to the top of the iceberg, right? I hate using this analogy, but we keep going back to the surface. But let us not sink like the Titanic. A lot of what we do is teaching kids to swim. Again, we're focused on getting that kid into the Olympics, but a lot of this in these developing nations is about just saving lives. It's about giving them access to basic fundamentals of swimming for survival. And so we talk about India, great example. Africa, great example. Kids are dying in the river all the time. Adults are dying in the river all the time. Adults trying to save their children are dying because they don't know how to swim. So again, let us not forget that, FINA is not just, what we see for every 4 years. A foundation, no, we don't. We don't, and we should. And it's something we have to figure out. I had a note somewhere about that from somebody, and it's on here somewhere. I can't show you my desk. It's too embarrassing, but it's here somewhere.
You wake up one day like, why don't we have a foundation? We're FINA. We should have a foundation. Yes, you should have a foundation. People have all sorts of things. They have all sorts of opinions about a foundation, but a foundation is a part of your business.
Yeah,
it's important, and it should invest back in the things that you care about. And I look forward to the day when FINA launches their foundation. I have to ask you something selfishly. My team manager in the 1990s was a guy by the name of Mike Unger. And back then at USA Swimming, he was making about $20,000 a year toting bags around. Team managers are like, they're Christ figures. They're selfless. They work tirelessly, and that epitomized, that was his role. So he did this for years, and he ascended, of course, to become the COO of USA Swimming. And for a hot minute, everyone thought that he was going to be the CEO, but he couldn't. He really was an acting CEO at USA Swimming for a period of time because Chuck Wilgus, the chief executive there, had cancer for many, many years. But before he had his health challenge, I think Mike was flirting, and I'm maybe outing him, but he was flirting with going to FINA. Like that was about 2005, 2006, and it was roughly around there. He can correct me and if he wants to, but he did move. I think he has a global mindset on the sport. So now he's finally under the FINA roof. What's Mike doing?
Well, right now Mike's preparing for the Golden Goggles event tonight, I think.
That's right. He doesn't officially start until what, January?
So I think he'll be in Abu Dhabi. So Coleman will have an opportunity to see him, catch up with him then. Mike will be out there with us, and he's been his arrival has been eagerly anticipated by our team. And so Mike will be. Look, I can't say enough about the guy. I mean, obviously, I've come into my relationship with Mike a lot later than you, and a lot later than most of your listeners. But you use the word tirelessly to describe Mike, and I think the young Mike toting bags has the same amount of energy today than he did back then, and his work ethic remains the same, if not stronger. So we're super fortunate to have Mike on board. It probably just came in a really good time in his career when he just was looking for a change, and so I think we got lucky, and we really look forward to having him join our team. I really look at Mike as someone who can really elevate our ability to host events, reunite our community, and probably most importantly is mentor some of our sport managers and really get them with a good understanding of the care and detail that goes into the events, and sort of sharing all 25 odd years of life in the sport with them. And so I think that's going to be a large role that Mike plays. And again, with as many events on our calendar right now, we need strong leadership. We need great visionaries. We need, people with passion and that ability to to make key decisions at difficult times, but also pick up the bags and lug them across the pool deck to make sure something gets done. And that's pretty much Mike right there. So yeah, we're really excited, and I mean,
I feel really guilty asking this question, and it might be a better question for another podcast, because you've told me just how busy you are with what's happening.
Well, you always preface all your questions with this like prelude about that stuff. I get nervous.
I want you to be nervous. I want you to be uncomfortable. No, it's that stop. It's really that closing question. It's that question of vision. And maybe it takes time, I think, sometimes to develop a vision. We talked about messaging, but where do you see FINA in 10 years? Where do you see FINA a generation from now? Because you're engineering, the team that's creating all these things. So that's I don't know what if this has been, if you've been too busy, or if this is something you've dedicated a lot of time to thinking about.
No, look, Mel, I'd love to have that stock answer printed on my wall every day I walk into work and I have a cup of coffee and I see the vision statement and everything comes to light. That's not true. I mean, we're digging the ship out from the bottom of the sea every single day. We're breaking our backs to do it. I'm not short of vision. Can I tell you where we'll be in 10 years? Yeah, I hope that ship's on top of the sea sailing smoothly. I hope to reunite what I consider a broken aquatics community. I hope that we can reduce the death rate of drowning. I hope that we can, see a calendar that thrives and competes amongst organizing committees to host our events. I hope that we can bridge that 4-year gap, and I hope that we can find a robust way to make solid careers for our athletes. Not only the tip of the iceberg, but everybody below it. I hope that we can have a programming in place that gives all athletes opportunities, no matter their race or their religion. I do hope all that, and yeah, that's my vision. And it's a bit foggy right now, to be completely honest with you. I hope it's getting clearer. It does every day, but I think that some self-reflection over the holidays, a bit of downtime to kind of really see where the holes in the boat are, and to really see how we can, again, get the ship moving a little bit quicker. I think I'll be able to come up with sort of a clear understanding of where we actually need to be. But I can tell you this, it's got to be athlete centered. It's got to be athlete focused. All the measures that we've taken right now are geared solely towards, unified athlete. And I don't think that's going to change. I think as blurry as the vision is now, I think that's crystal clear to me. And I don't really intend to waver too much from that.
I think that's an organic ending, Coleman. Let me ask Brent. Brent, are you cool with that? With closing with that?
Yeah.
Yeah. It sounds to me like you're, I asked the question, but it sounds like it's clearly you're working through it, and there's certain things there's certain boxes you have to check, and everything else can come to the messaging part that we had talked about. That's really fascinating to me. I'm looking forward to seeing how that evolves.
Yeah, no, it is because, I can sit there and say, okay, here's my thoughts about what I want to do and sort of what we need to work on from a transparency perspective to a communication perspective, and in communicating through our athletes. And then frankly, one of the things that attracted me to Torin was, comments he made, which are that we have to communicate through our athletes. And I agree with that. That's exactly what we've tried to do with our messaging, through the World Cup, is to communicate through the lives and the eyes of the athletes. And that's where I think we need to be. I think you can sell swimming only so many ways. And I think I can try to sell a 50 free just like everybody else who's been smarter than me before me. But maybe we need to stop trying to sell the event and sell the athlete, and rally around the athletes as the vessel that we're trying to move, and the swimming pool is just secondary to that. I'm not a visionary. I'm not an expert. I don't know how I'm going to do it, but I'm going to try to figure it out.
Coleman, we ended about 2 minutes ago. I did have one question that I wanted to ask. This is a clip out, and it might be just a no, or I don't want to talk about it. So 3, 2, 1. Brent, FINA started this unique situation where you have the FINA Champions Series. Is that something that that you think you'll be doing in the future, or not?
No, I mean, we spoke earlier about reduction of calendar. I mean, this is one area we got to focus. I mean, I'm not going to keep banging my head against the wall of things that don't really work and work well. I mean, we need to refocus our energies. We need to get a little bit of a foundation set here before we can figure out what's in store for swimming and in what series we want to take on, how it looks and how it feels. But I think we have no intention of pursuing that, at least in 2022. So.
You've been listening to the SwimSwam podcast. Stay tuned for new episodes every week. You can take SwimSwam podcast on the go by subscribing on your favorite podcast platform. Look for links in the description below, and be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel for more videos as well.